with this shot, I think it's time for pick bans, and let's see which way we get from SANDBOX on the blue side, because the Lucian Flex harder to pull off a second time in a row.
Well, I thought that Summit looked pretty good on the Urgot, but they decide that they want to ban it out first. He's not going to get another chance to use that one. SANDBOX on the blue side won't have that kind of trickiness that they did have in game number 1 draft, but maybe Gen G can pull something out.
SANDBOX are doing something different to yesterday's meta. No Aurelia Akali blue side bans from SANDBOX Gaming, so they're not banning away the Flex Assassins Worlds 2018 style. Zooming in on Gen G, are there any adaptations they want to make after game number 1? A lot of strong champions up, and they will be the ones to ban the Aurelia. We'll see where SANDBOX are in terms of Akali priority. The Galio is left open. Definitely found Fly a little bit wanting in game number 1 on the Galio. Didn't look comfortable on that. We'll see if that's going to be the choice, and it will just be a first pick here for SANDBOX.
But the Lucian is also open, so if Gen G want to take a page out of the SANDBOX drafting strategy, they could even pick that up alongside of perhaps an Akali, which they are hovering now. Akali was banned out in game number 1 by the side of SANDBOX. And this time, Gen G will get their hands on that pick. So Akali comes in, as does Sion, to round out their solo lanes.
Lucian priority, like you mentioned, pretty low. It's actually not a career strong champion for Ruler. You know, Ruler's only 2 and 4 on the Lucian, so he's never found much value out of the pick. So kind of amazing to see Lucian fall through the first 4 picks of a draft. Remember, this is Gen G Akali, and if you remember, one of the big champions for them in Kesper Cup was the Akali in particular, but that was Cuve on the Akali, and notice that Cuve will not be coming in for game number 2.
Look at this, too, on fleek. He says, I'm going to show you guys how to play some Camille. Game 1, kind of erase that from your memory. I will show you the power of that pick. Alongside of Lissandra and Galio, so we could even have Galio go back up into the top side, or Lissandra top even. We could see that once again. Tahm Kench seems like the obvious choice up against so much pick.
And if you're trying to make a flashcard to teach people what styles of comp, say a poke comp, for example, the flashcard of the first 3 picks in a draft for a pick comp are Galio, Lissandra, Camille. This is the epitome of pick on the side of SANDBOX. Very reliable, a lot of targeted abilities to start the CC chain. Important to have the Tahm Kench here, and that was actually the first Tahm Kench loss, you'll remember, Valdez, in game number 1. So life on Tahm Kench duty again. Doesn't get to play the Vel'Koz anymore after the Vel'Koz loss 2 days ago. The Ezreal for now going to be banned. Will there be a second AD carry ban? Because I don't think SANDBOX is that worried about Lucian so far.
How about Kai'Sa, I suppose?
Yeah.
Ruler was even saying that in his own interview, but instead decides to go for the Varus ban here.
Be a pretty god tier Kai'Sa, or even a Kalista Thresh draft on the side of SANDBOX. That's why the Thresh has been banned by Gen G. I like those two potentially hopping through on the side of SANDBOX. What did Gen G want, though? They're looking for a marksman. They're also looking for a jungler. And it seems like maybe Ruler will just deny away the Lucian. When Ezreal's taken away, we're running out of lanes that lane pretty comfortable into Lucian, so it feels like it has to be a blocker and also potentially a source of power for Ruler.
Well, he's going to have to prove himself on this Lucian that you mentioned is not one of his big champions. And another big question is, what do SANDBOX respond with? And they're going to lock in a Victor.
That's going to be Victor bot lane, most likely, just to wave clear against Lucian. It's a bit of an avoid lane choice. I would have loved to see a much more risky choice here, but they do have to contend with something like an Akali. And we got a Darius locked in. This is going to be Lissandra support, guys. The first Lissandra support that we see in Kesper Cup. The pick was around in solo queue. It's definitely around solo rank recently. People like Tucson have been playing with it, and Lahens as well. It's actually going to be our first Lissandra support from Joker of all people. An old man reinventing himself as Gen G. You know what? They need a jungler. They go tier list. They go Sejuani.
Honestly, after game 1, I say to Peanut, you are playing Sejuani. That's just your...
Did you watch Peanut play Sejuani 2 days ago?
Yeah, but you know, it's... it looked better than the Camille game, I'll say that. Don't want to be too mean. I know Peanut's got a lot of fans. Hopefully he can redeem himself in game number 2. Back on the Sejuani this time around. Fly given an opportunity to get a bit more aggressive on what looks to be the Akali, but take a look at these summoners up on the top side, so they might do a switch here. There it is.
We're waiting for the switch here. Would they actually not go for support Lysandra? They won't. So interesting. Seems like Joker just wants to go for support Galio instead. This goes against recent trends. We've had it, I believe, once in the LCK before. I want to say Tucson played it. It might have been Max. One of those people that look at the game differently. So they don't actually go for the recent meta trend. They just want some lockdown, and I guess it's coming from the support.
This is a game you look at the draft in solo queue and you just click that X button in the top side. You're like, okay, I'm going to dodge this one. I think our support is trolling a little bit. But no, it is, of course, Joker going on to that Galio. Not seen there on the AR, but a very important pick alongside of a Darius in the top side. So Darius versus Akali in the top lane could get really dicey as well.
Darius, Ghost Flash Darius, is of course the god tier top laner in Korean solo queue. If you come over here, it doesn't matter what elo you are.
See it every
Someone
game.
is going to lock in Ghost Flash Darius. I imagine the summoners will be a bit more defensive this time, but wouldn't it be fun if they were not?
It would be. We'll have to wait and see, Papa, as game 2 should be another spicy one. Let's hop onto the Rift once again.
Sounds like we might actually have a game pause in our future, Valdez. That's what our producer said. Sad boys. There it is. Confirmed. Also a confirmation that Summit just isn't full Korean solo queue Darius. He's got a teleport. What's that for, Valdez? What do you need that for?
Well, I suppose the Akali could be going all in on you, so maybe you don't need that ghost to stay in range. Or maybe he's just saying, hey, I forgot to take my ghost, as it looks like it is a problem with Summit on our screen here. We'll see what seems to be the issue here in just a moment, guys.
Some really solid laning by Summit in his professional debut in Korea.
Yeah.
Got a lot of help from the jungle, but gotta say, if you exit laning phase 30 CS up, still gonna be some important performance. It sounds like it's a client issue on the side of Summit, so hopefully we can get that cleared up quickly, because we still need to understand this bonanza of just kind of random assignments. This is Griffin at the start of summer tier of like, why can't we let's declare bot lane, I guess. We got Galio support in this game, in spite of Lysandra's support being by far the normal choice when it comes to off-meta bot lane supports.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, and if you have Galio Camille compositions, you're going to be diving bot lane a lot, right? We've seen so many four-man, five-man dives in the bottom side. If the Galio's already there, I mean, I suppose you can flex it that way. He's also going to be quite tanky, I suppose. He has insane amounts of CC in his kit, so on paper, it sounds okay.
I'm going to be honest, I think it's way more trashy than it used to be, because Galio right now is an AP scaling burst assassin abuser. He doesn't even provide resists on his ultimate anymore. So actually, when he ults in, it's very much about getting Galio there to do damage as fast as possible rather than anything else. Yes, the CC is nice, but when it comes to low econ Galio, that's way worse after the change. So very peculiar choice to me to make the Galio the support choice. Maybe it's a champion pool issue. Remember, Joker looked a little bit off on the Thresh in game number 1, hit some good hooks, but eventually, with all the flashes down, you're going to hook someone. It's how it has to be. So we'll wait and see if we can be inspired by it. What we can say it does provide is you press E on Victor, Q on Galio, and hopefully minions die pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? He has those base damages on his abilities that we always like to talk about. So they have the wave clear. And I was thinking, you know, what else are you going to put in the bottom side with the Victor? He can kind of protect himself, has that wave clear. Why not go ahead and try something wonky and weird like this? Galio, obviously, very high tier right now in the game. And if this makes the most sense to you in terms of the way you want to flex your lanes, maybe you just go ahead and put it this way.
I'll just assume that it's working in scrims, but while I could look at the Elise support yesterday and say, well, that's quintessential Lehens, and I understand how the Elise support will function, WMAX bot lane Lysandra is being preferred by a lot of different teams when it comes to solo queue support. So the Galio, we'll wait to see if we can understand it. Let's see if we can understand the early game here, because once again, you're going to have the magnifying glass on Gen G, who traded down and made some pretty big micro mistakes, and they can't afford to do either, especially not both.
You were mentioning in game number 1 how Roach looked pretty decent on the Victor.
Yeah.
We were even talking about it in the break. just a little bit between us two. And this time he's given a little bit more opportunity, I suppose, to go on to that Ignite TP. Akali, I thought maybe it would be Fly in the mid lane, but no. He's just going to be back on another tank. And take a look at this, guys. It's actually Darius in the mid lane. They want these lanes specifically. Yep. They're not going to be, bothered by the swap that Gen G did at 25 seconds. They're just going to send their top laner to mid and mid laner to top. Say what you want about SANDBOX, but I mean, this is entertaining, guys.
They know what they want, so at least they know which side their bread is buttered on. That I can respect. Speaking of knowing which side your bread is buttered on, the reason you make this play is that Lissandra, seen as a counter pick to Akali in the mid lane, at least has some pressure because you can't interact with the Akali while in the Shroud. The Darius, you can understand, against Sion is about punishing melees. That's where Darius is strongest whenever he's able to actually be there in melee range. The last time we had a mid lane Darius, it was Faker, I believe, in summer season when they were going through a lot of different lane swap shenanigans. Where SK Telecom T1, and this is why, because you walk up and for once, Sion's made accountable for his usual wave-clearing ways.
The only thing that's a little bit less happy for the Darius is that mid lane is a shorter lane compared to the top lane, so you can't really run them down. Maybe that's part of the reason why he doesn't take Ghost as well. Just says, I'm not really going to need Ghost in the mid lane. I'd rather just have the TP to have my presence be there in the lane. On Fleek is going 1v1. Oh, man, he's going to force the flash this early on Fleek. Some extremely aggressive jungling pays off.
Really nice pathing there. He didn't go for the middle of the mono. He went up because, of course, that's where the Sejuani is going to try to escape, and that means that the Arctic Assault was interrupted by the hook shot. Doesn't matter if you're level 2. You'll press the attack Camille. You know what you want to do. Good start there from On Fleek. Now the shoe's on the other foot, and he's going to take both scuttles just like Peanut did in game number 1.
Yeah. You mentioned how we didn't really get to see On Fleek in the Caspa Cup. It definitely was a big gap in the SANDBOX lineup when we didn't get to see him in that tournament, but he looked really good in promotion tournaments to make it into LCK, and now here in the LCK, he looks like one of us, right? He just looks like a fantastic, another one of these aggressive junglers so far, looking good in the matchup.
Well, consider his pathing so far was his red, enemy Gromp, try to kill the enemy at his red, and that's why Sejuani comes like, where the hell is my Gromp? Well, that was taken earlier by Camille. Now, if On Fleek's fully aware of that, he should know that Peanut will path bot side to try to get a camp of his own.
You notice the pings from the side of On Fleek. He didn't actually go to this left side, as you were mentioning. No Gromp, no Wolves. He actually comes down and does his Raptors. So maybe kind of on that point you were talking about, wants to be close to his bottom side just in case. And you can see some more go-ahead pings here from On Fleek. He is in position to handle this if any kind of gank comes in from Peanut.
Been revealed, though, because he used the scrying plant there, so easy to ping out that was the enemy jungler and Peanut himself. Showing his exact positioning. He'll back away. Ghost, remember, is no Hex Core Victor, so low on mana, not going to be able to shove too expediently this early in the game. So a lot happens, but nothing is consequential, barring the flash being used by Peanut.
I love the mind games here from On Fleek, too. He uses the scrying plant that time around just to put the fear into Peanut, has the Gromp, go ahead and lose its patience bar. Peanut losing a little bit of speed there as On Fleek is just backing into his base. Just happy about that one. Top lane looking good for the side of SANDBOX. Mid lane looking even better in terms of that CS difference. It's just they got the lane assignments they wanted. Looking good so far.
And for all the people who've already muted us and started to go queue for solo queue mid lane Darius, which we know you're out there. You love your Darius. What you should know about this is it's very significant that SANDBOX have the big skirmishing advantage in the jungle. You need to have a Camille versus Sejuani matchup to make this work, because you were already talking about the short lane. If Darius falls behind, then he's under turret and you can't actually exert any pressure. Consider right now what SANDBOX have. They have the skirmishing advantage in the jungle. Darius has huge kill pressure with any Camille gank onto the Sion because he has his ult and does so much base damage. Top lane has the same kill pressure because they have instant cast, lockdown CC, and the press the attack Camille. They have huge priority in lanes because the jungle matchup is oh so ahead.
You can consider the opposite, too. I know a lot of people are going to be talking about the Camille versus Sejuani matchup as we did have it in Game 1, and Honestly, Peanut wasn't able to really win that one and get so aggressive, but it was because, you know, the Lucian over the Galio. Galio couldn't honestly respond before level 6. I'm going to hold that thought as Dove is getting dove here. We'll see if he goes down. All the abilities used here by Roach. Looking for one more Q. Just going to get that auto. Picks up the essential first blood solo kill in the top side.
Dove was trying to buy time, get under turret, then self-ult, but it was all about the chicken on the final Q or auto. And the self-ult never happens. The kill would have still been registered. Nice moment for Genji in the top side. Teleport Ignite is taken for a reason. Akali is so slippery, flash or no, and the Ignite gives the cool pressure, even in a traditional counter matchup like the Lissandra.
Yeah, and that's really big for the lane too, because the TP was used prior to the kill, so Dove has to walk all the way back, misses an entire wave. You also got Peanut hanging around the top side here. We'll see if he decides to follow up. He's not going to hit level 6 as we saw in game number 1, but he's still in position if need be.
And you would imagine that both Summit and Dove are going to be a little bit out of order. Remember, they're not playing in their traditional lanes. They have much less experience in the corresponding solo lane than they usually would. And because of that, there is always going to be those scenarios where Roach understands the lane spacing better than Dove possibly should on the top side. And that was a window that Roach saw that Dove wasn't aware of.
Yeah, at least the Lissandra, as you guys can see, is still very good in the lane. Play this one a lot in the mid lane. Akali and Lissandra are both extremely popular on the ladder nowadays. You can kind of just throw your AoE abilities out into the Shroud, which is Akali's most annoying ability for anyone who has played against her. Here's On Fleek. He's level 6. He's looking for a dive. They want the Tom Kent. Red Smite comes in. Do they have the follow-up damage? Ghost and Joker just too far behind. Ghost is going to follow up with that Chaos Storm, but unfortunately can't quite close the gap as the Victor and Galio, not the most mobile champions in the game.
Yeah, really poor coordination there between On Fleek and his laners. Joker tried to go for a taunt flash, but he was so far behind the Camille that they were never realistically going to be able to get that stun in. They'll get a turret plate, so that's the micro victory from that particular gank, but not the cleanest stuff from SANDBOX's trio.
At least the lane is looking a lot better after that upgrade to the Ray that you were talking about. The wave's actually pushing the direction of Ruler this time around, and the CS is very competitive. Both of them pretty much on the same amount of CS. At least Ruler did pick up the Cull to, you know, just handle this, essentially the farm lane that we do have in the bottom side. We'll see if that helps him out in terms of getting ahead in farm.
Let's talk about farm lanes now. Please forgive us. You're going to have to do a little mental gymnastics here because Darius is still in the top side of the scoreboard. But it is a 15-odd CS lead for the mid lane and a 20 CS lead for the top side here as math gets harder when you have to look at where the pictures are. All we're saying is we talked about priority plus a priority jungler. That's paying off in the CS numbers. On Fleek, though, his experience actually falling away a little bit here. He hasn't got an experience lead in spite of all of this, and we're waiting for that ult to be big as Peanut is mid.
Well, famously going 2v1 against a Darius is not always the best idea, but Summit this time around not going to take that one, even with On Fleek nearby. Just decides to go for the safe flash and says, I just don't want to get bursted down by Fly, who also has the Ignite from his unsealed spellbook. He gets to safety there, so pretty nice for him.
Mid lane.
Okay, this time around he doesn't have his flash, and it looks like he's in a ton of pain this time around. The Ignite ticks in. He's really fast, but it doesn't matter as Peanut is just going to throw out that ultimate. Didn't want to have to, but eventually just uses it to pick up the kill.
They draw out an extra tool, and this is the problem here for SANDBOX. They haven't been able to capitalize on that lane strength, and there hasn't been synergy between Camille and her winning lanes. It's been more about trying to make those emergency plays bot lane. Peanut and Fly combined, and so important that the stun registers on the unstoppable onslaught there. And like you mentioned, because of the heal, you get the extra cooldown, but no more. Genji do pick up the kill.
Phase rush on the Darius too makes him really slippery at times. He can be very fast in some of these team fights once he gets that phase rush going. Unfortunately, though, dealing with so many stuns is going to eventually go down. And, well, kind of sad one there for the side of SANDBOX, but he's still winning in the CS for now, at least.
But it's one of those points, Valdez, that we talked about a bit in some MVP games in particular last year of, all right, you got priority in a CS lead in 2 lanes. That means your jungler, which has a skirmish advantage, can push up but what is it actually getting you? The on-paper priority is getting you a CS lead, but they've had that for a while now. That inevitably, as turrets go down, will be narrowed on both sides. And actually, Akali does outscale Lissandra in the 1v1 over time. They need to make map plays, and here's one of them.
Fly has his flash into Tahm Kench, so SANDBOX not going to do anything foolish. They're not going to all in onto that kind of combination. Just let him go.
I like that they see they need to get more than just kills. They need objectives. They need to find ways to get priorities they can turn into true turret damage. Top lane has been soloed down, I believe 3 plates. Can't see right now because Akali's over it, but multiple plates have been picked up by Lissandra. They're finally wielding their power, but let's see what the first main objective is for SANDBOX.
Well, SANDBOX using some of that pressure that they have in the lanes to try to come in here and put pressure onto Peanut in terms of that farm. We have another fight up in the top side as Dove forced a self-ult to get away from Roach, who also used his ultimate. And still SANDBOX are coming in. They really want this blue buff. It's 4-on-4 down here. Summit getting on top of Fly is going to push him away, but he's still down a level, which is kind of annoying. And they will just let the blue buff be and go over to the side of Gen G.
It's good to see them contesting more, but right now we can't see the next level play from SANDBOX. We're focused on them fighting for very micro objectives while around the map. Lanes are steadying. Roach is over level 9, and we all know that the Q there, finally at 5 points, gets a lot more utility and shove. The Gunblade is coming soon. Will this be the second objective of the game? Ocean Drake was a start. But you can see Gen G, they're not giving up anything without a fight.
Well, exhaust onto the Galio is kind of interesting, but a big engage here from the Scion, but he gets Hextech Ultimatum, and maybe enough damage. The pull over the wall is huge by Summit. Gets that Tahm Kench into the danger zone, and they take him out immediately. That's going to be the 1 kill to SANDBOX and potentially this Mountain Drake.
That was like an Officer Darius. He certainly apprehended the Tahm Kench and got him, but bot side.
Well, he does have that support Galio. That's one thing you can use to keep your Victor safe. Something we did see right there. Maybe part of the reason, but either way, Ghost does not die. Had to flash for that one, but the Mountain Drake still goes the way of SANDBOX.
Peanut's still here, and I'm not sure SANDBOX know this. We'll see if anything comes. As any cooldowns are wasted, potentially Peanut could find an avenue in. No ultimate for him. He'll back away, no harm, no foul after it all. The Mountain Drake, like you mentioned, but here's the big timer. On the top left, you see that Infernal is the next spawn, and I feel that will cap off an innovative draft and an innovative approach to the laning phase from SANDBOX, or condemn it. Watching the replay here, so important that no double stun came from the Unstoppable Onslaught. You can use the untargetability at the end from the Camille to avoid that, and the Apprehend, like we mentioned, was the big cooldown there that got Summit his first kill.
Yeah, we weren't sure what to expect out of Summit, but he's played 2 lanes and he's looked good in both. Honestly, getting a pretty decent matchup in both of them, but either way, gotta give a nice little thumbs up to him so far. He's been having a series of his own.
Really interesting player as well. We were going over his history because we knew he was a substitute on a Freak of Freaks but never really played. Understandable, he was behind Keen in 2018. Player who's played in 2 Kesper Cups on 2 different rosters there. Actually played with Blossom in the new SKT T1 training mid lane at Gori in 2017 on the ISF team that went and represented Korea and won that tournament pretty handedly. So he's been around the scene, but again, starting in the LCK, this is his first time in the big lights for a SANDBOX team that he hadn't even played for previously. It was a very late addition. He was on the Freak of Freaks roster until I believe November or December, before he finally moved over, and already showing us that there's definitely a lot about his play, and he's certainly open to new experiences.
Dove here could be in a bit of trouble, is going to face check up against that Sejuani, trying to use that glacial path, but now there's 3 members on him, but he's buying a lot of time. The TP comes in too, and here comes Darius. Exhaust is on top of him, but now it's going to go down, but the bottom lane of Gen G is here first. Summit is going to get a big heal, and is going to get away in the backside on Fleek, winning up against Peanut, and there is the laser on top of that Scion.
Fleek's going in.
On Fleek, he wants Ruler, should be able to pick it up. There it is. The sweeping strike gets a second one as well onto the Tahm Kench, make that 3 kills now to the side of SANDBOX.
Unfleek stayed ahead of that fight by coming through the enemy jungle. I'm loving the aggression we're seeing from this young jungler. New blood rises again, I'll say, the subtitle I see in on Flake what I saw from Peanut 3-4 years ago when he was so relentlessly aggressive against the older names in the jungle here. We're looking for more kills.
Roach trying to be the big man on campus. Wants that solo kill onto the support Galio, but Dove is trying to protect him here. Finally, the Shroud has run out, but now Peanut has joined the fight. That means that Joker is going to have to let him go down. Kind of a messy one there. Akali nearly goes down, but still, at least a kill goes back to Gen G.
Dove too aggressive at the end. Going to be found out. We'll have to disengage, but overall, it is a trade up from SANDBOX, and there's that gold lead again, Valdez. 4,000 gold, the lead for SANDBOX. And we talked about how Inferno might be the most interesting moment. If it goes the way of SANDBOX, it might be the beginning of the end for Gen G in week 1 of the LCK.
Certainly feels that way. I know a lot of people were rating SANDBOX towards the bottom of their tier list. You know, even a lot of people rating them at 10th place. But so far, they've been putting on a nice little show here up against Gen G.
You have to get your timing off on the self-ult or this play can't happen. Think of the cooldowns that were wasted trying to lock down Dove. He couldn't get that play on the previous top lane play. He gets it here. And then from this, it looks like it's all going to be over. But on the top side, Camille comes over, can't kill Peanut, but stays in the play. A lot of junglers here will abandon the play, saying, I don't think I can do anything. He knows that he can chase onto Ruler, takes him down with a tactical sweep, can turn as well. Nicely done by SANDBOX Gaming. Deserve to find a mid-game advantage over Gen G.
Gonna get a follow-up replay of this, as
just
you might expect. Yeah, you might expect the Galio to have damage, but he actually doesn't.
By the end, okay, the Shroud is here. This is a visual bug, by the way, guys. By the end, the moment the following Q misses, you just leave this play. Why is he walking up to an area with no vision? That's the only mistake from Dove. That's why he gives up his life there. Amusingly, one tick of the support Q's Galio.
Yeah.
Support Galio's Q almost accidentally kills Akali.
Well, we're here, and 4,000 gold at 18 minutes now is the scoreboard for the side of SANDBOX. They want the blue buff, and they want the Infernal. Smite comes in from on fleek. Looks like he's got a second one as the follow-up. And with that lead that he's got as well, he's not going for any, defensive, passive Camille items. He's going straight for the Trinity Force.
And you look at Summit, he's right there with you. Linderung somewhere is watching this saying, Coach, please, can I play Darius again? Because Trinity Force Darius, it's in the mid lane this time, but it's back, and he's building more damage. That's a longsword, I see, probably towards Asterix, you would imagine. Infernal Drake's not even going to be contested by Gen G. We talked about how losing a fight here might be the death now. Seems like they agree. They're looking for a better spot.
He's got Rift Herald as well. It's just all the objectives currently going the way of SANDBOX, and a massive gap in terms of that jungle.
13 jungle camps.
Crazy.
13 jungle camps, the difference. And when you're 2-0-1 and you're up 50 CS, you get to buy Trinity Force. We talk about these Camille junglers building Trinity Force from behind, and we're always wincing a little bit. He's got the stopwatch to have a GA-like effect, and the Trinity Force is the right way to go. And if you're Ruler, a mid-range AD carry, you're wincing at how many different people you have to respect, and a damn, very annoying, I'm sure, support Galio ultimate to respect.
It's interesting with the Victor, kind of protects him. Doesn't offer the resistances, as you were saying, with the new Galio changes, but you still get that big-time ultimate. You have so much CC in your kit. The base damages help to push out the lane. It's not a bad idea, I'd say.
You change some of the champions on Gen G's side and give them more range, 600 range champions. And actually, like I said during the little pause we had, I think the support Galio with the removal of the resist doesn't really do anything. But the fun interaction is, this is a fiercely melee comp from Gen G. They're 500 range at most, right, on the side of Gen G, and they want to be battling in pretty close proximity. That does mean that in a game where Gen G's winning, everyone's proccing the Sejuani passive almost instantly, because that works with the melee attacks, and you get a lot of permafrost on. But in a game like this, you have to respect the AoE knockups so much on the side of Gen G that they are actually getting value out of the Heroes Engines purely because it's a short-range Gen G comp.
Rift Herald, massive damage in the bottom side, just making Dove's life even easier. Gonna continue trying to push in up against that Akali now in the bottom side. And SANDBOX, first game, double AD carry. Cool red side strat where you flex the Lucian into the mid lane up against the Galio.
Somehow that looks pedestrian.
I know, this time it's no AD carries.
No AD carry, Darius mid lane, I guess. Now it's top lane. The OCD people out there can finally rest easy. We finally have the correct lane assignments. Things have gone way better than expected in this particular game. Life cycling through his Unsealed Spellbook. He knows he needs cleanse, and Damage close to being wielded, only a Phage and the recipe short for the Trinity Force for the Camille.
What is going to be the next step here for SANDBOX? They don't have the most amazing Baron damage, that's for sure. They're also on the blue side, and Gen G have a nice amount of vision around there. Also, Fly having a rough time up against Darius. That's what you can always expect. Okay, we're going in onto Ruler, but he's got Tom Kench on fleek, buddy. You got to be careful. As once again, another member of SANDBOX getting a little bit greedy, going into no vision. Gets caught out there, has to burn his flash.
So what you need to note there, another VOD timer, just like the Baron setups in game number 1 for SANDBOX, the coach wants 21:45 in this game, is the game state has changed. The laning phase is over, the grouping phase has started, and OnFleek is making an aggressive pick because he sees the Lucian, thinks, oh, it's just Lucian, maybe Tom Kench near, I can't see him. He's not respecting the fact that the grouping phase has started. You no longer can go for full Assassin Camille. If you have 6 kills and had Trinity Force, maybe you go complete Rambo mode, but this is not the time. Now you need to, once again, like we said in game 1 with their Baron setups, take that deep breath. The game has changed, and SANDBOX need to update.
That they do. This time around, you mentioned the range problems on the side of Gen G up against the specific composition, the Calio, Darius especially, but what can Ruler do this time around? We saw him in game number 1 on the Ezreal, had somewhat of a chance to try to go 1v9, but this time on the Lucian already has a death, not necessarily the biggest farmer. Can he actually carry on a Lucian as the game goes along will be a big question for me.
It's really hard because Camille Galio exists, even though it's wonky based on expectation with support Galio. There's Camille Galio, so they have backline threats. So the reliability there with Lissandra rolling in like we're seeing on screen means that Ruler should be under a lot of threat. Now, there's still a chance that OnFleek goes too far. Summit misjudges, and the front line is taken down, and Ruler can clean up, but SANDBOX have the tools, they have the gold lead. Ruler's not set up to succeed, but he's a great AD carry. Who knows if he can make it work?
Well, they want to get on to OnFleek here. Hexspec Gunblade is going to be used. Dove desperately trying to get into position. Is going to ultimate the Akali, but there is no follow-up on the side of SANDBOX. Roach takes a lot of damage from the Victor. They will successfully disengage, but Ghost looking to take a little bit more. He's getting really strong, actually, from that laning phase where he was very well protected. Is beginning to chunk people out on the Victor.
And the defensive macro from Gen G is a holdover from the Ambition and Crown days. It's still good, and OnFleek is too far up. With the vision line that the team have put together, they have a fallback objective. Don't feel so great about a 24-minute Ocean, but they're cycling another Inferno and potentially a further spawn. We could have a bonanza of Drakes in this particular game, and while the Baron is a lot harder of an objective, SANDBOX, what they have told us now, and we can say triumphantly at 24 minutes into game number 2, is that their early game plans are really good, but their early game to mid game to late game transitions are still a bit sloppy. At least they have that base. Let's see if they can close out, once again, a good game. They've got 4 Drakes to their name.
Feeling pretty good at this point. As you mentioned, I suppose we could even get to 6 Drakes. I don't think we've seen that just yet, but we've seen a lot of 5 Drakes in very one-sided games that end after 30 minutes, but we'll have to wait and see if SANDBOX can get there as well. It's going to be really tight, but either way, still looking for that next step for them. They used the Rift Herald in the bottom side. Couldn't quite take out that inner turret. Their Baron damage, as we mentioned, not the greatest here in game number 2, especially compared to game number 1. Still looking for that pick. Their pick comp is still there. Lissandra, Galio, and Camille will have a fun time if they can find anyone on the map.
So how do you find people with a pick comp? During the lane phase, it's a dumb question, right? Because people are in their lane, you walk up with your R button and it works. In this game where Gen G know they're behind, they know the enemy has a pick comp, they know they don't have to walk up outside of certain scenarios. Maybe the next Infernal spawn will be that scenario. Baron is always that scenario. So right now, with the easy objectives taken, the outer ring of turrets has been gone for a long time. It's all about buddy system to get deep wards down into forcing a face check. And that's a lot harder than the laning phase execution. So we're waiting to see, can SANDBOX continue to push their vision line forward? Because if they don't, Gen G will say, look, it's not ideal that we're scaling to late, but we're getting a free scale, and that means we're getting death timers up and the potential for a big team fight.
We're trying to clear out as much vision as possible. The melee Galio, not the greatest at clearing, but doing his best. They know there's that one ward near the side mid lane brush that they weren't able to take out, but outside of that, they have some decent warding down.
I believe it's double warding totem on the side of Gen G. I actually can't tell if it's warding or scrying coming through from the Akali, but they definitely need Sion to switch over. They need some more range spotting. They don't have Ezreal ults, and now watching Fly.
Well, as we mentioned, they're looking for a pick as desperately as they possibly can, and at least they are going to get the flash away from Fly here up on the top side, so nice little bonus summoner go the way of SANDBOX.
Watching to count vision here, we see a control ward for Akali. She's bot lane, doesn't matter as much. Control ward for Tahm Kench, and we're low on vision, Valdez, so you count that vision. There's no blue trinket. Why not start the Baron?
Starts as a 2-man, reverts into a 4-man, but Peanut is nearby. The Chaos Storm is here. The taunt from Joker. He's denying the Piggy from getting in, trying to heroic exit, but he is the hero of this one, making sure that the jungler doesn't get in anyway, and there it is. The Baron goes to SANDBOX.
But this Gargoyle dies valiantly. He does exactly what he needs to do, and SANDBOX, after misfiring around the Baron, actually pull off a great Baron. They countered the wards, they started it up, they knew that Galio, alone as a champion, excels in flashing over a Baron pick. They come away with 4 Baron buffs, well executed for SANDBOX.
I love the zoom into the observers here on the side of right. Korea doing a good job. Just highlighting the heroic play there from the side of Joker on the support Galio.
He is the oldest player in the LCK. We're in age hierarchy city in Korea. This guy is the older brother his team needs and does exactly the role with the Galio on that Baron.
So they get that Baron. They did have what seemed to be a decent amount of Baron damage actually with the Camille and the Darius. It's bleeding it out there, and eventually Victor just ulting it as well. Did put a hefty amount of pressure on there.
Now, you got the Baron, SANDBOX. You think, yes, we got the Baron. But remember, this is not double 80 carry, goodbye enemy turrets Baron. This is, well, range is kind of a problem, Baron. So they actually need to play 3 lanes or dive. The easier choice is to dive, and SANDBOX, based on game number 1, aren't so much about setting up their side waves like some of the better teams, or traditionally more experienced teams in the LCK. Let's see how they close out with the Baron, because it's a powerful one, but the reliability is a bit lower than in a more traditional marksman comp.
There's another objective that could make things even more interesting, the second Infernal of the game. Poking its face out, and Dove actually getting an inner track on the right side as all of Gen G are in the mid lane. Nobody's going to defend it, and they're going to lose an inhibitor turret just like that.
That's pretty smooth. All right, first objective. Question asked, question answered. Well done, SANDBOX. You got your first inhibitor turret in a team with no range. Welcome back up. Dove continues to poke around. Again, the mid lane's amusing because it's so damn hard. The Cannon Minion's the MVP of the mid-wave push because no one else can help. Summit's like, I would like you to take 5 autos and my ultimate. Not working out so well for him. Mid lane.
Okay, here comes the engage on a Joker, but it's support Galio, and he is so tanky, actually. Can the burn, the bleed go down onto Fly? It doesn't look like it, but they win the trade in the end, and they will take out another turret. Now they're looking for Roach, who has to get out of dodge. This is going to be pretty easy. The flash in from Uplink. He takes him out. What a play. Gets into position, and now Galio comes in to help out that Camille. He's going to die a hero as well. Even though he does go down, a double kill, though, does go to Ruler, so it looks like SANDBOX have to back after the 2 inhibitors go down.
And no shame in backing off when you get double inhibitor as a comp with no AD carry. Because guess what, Valdez? You can kite back to an Infernal if you want. You can bait an Infernal too. Here comes Fly.
Here we go. The apprehend over the wall once again. It is 3-on-3, and you do have life coming in. Gonna get that slow, and it looks like Summit in a little bit of trouble here. Is gonna flash away, triple apprehend, trying to get the damage. He takes out Fly. Unbelievable. And now Dove, with the help of Ghost, is gonna take them out. And that Lissandra passive, making quick work. Ghost gonna get another kill.
They're all dead.
That a third one as Peanut is nearly gonna go down. Has to flash away from the Chaos Storm. basically a death on that one, but oh man, they turn it around. SANDBOX didn't look good in the beginning, but they make it happen.
And that's what a gold lead gives you. You've got the battle stats to win those skirmishes, even outnumbered, and here's the TP. They want Nexus turrets.
Yeah, I guess they're just going to go for a win here, potentially, as they're going to take out one. Peanut, the sad Sejuani here in this game, not able to do too much. Gets the engage on the fight at the turrets, but no follow-up from his side. Rain's a big problem. Okay, trying to go for the prediction, but that was not much of a prediction, more of an anti-prediction. The Nexus looks like it's going to go down. Fly trying his best to do some damage, but the 2-0 victory comes to SANDBOX Gaming over Gen Z in an upset victory.
Take your tier list and stuff them, SANDBOX Gaming says, when they 2-0 Gen G as high as second or third on most people's tier list was Gen G. They cannot win a single game against W1D3 Gaming or SANDBOX Gaming. Very well-deserved victory and an innovative one as well. This is why I said on day one, there will be no agreement on how to play the meta until we've seen people play a couple of times. It's the debut of SANDBOX. They look at this game more like Griffin. They say, this is how we play our game rather than how do we play the meta. And that is actually going to give them a 2-0 and a really nice start and hopefully some new fans because they deserve them.
Very well played from draft into the game, just outplaying Gen G at every turn. They definitely deserve it, as you did mention, the 2-0. And we're going to have the unexpected interview with a couple of members here on the side of SANDBOX. I would personally give On Fleek the MVP for game number 2. Not sure how you feel, Papa.
The reason why this is such a cool victory is that Team Battle Comics were known for their cool name and the Bitcoin memes. And the Korean meme for this team was, well, I guess they're really tall. They had nothing about their gameplay in any of those memes about us. That's all this team were known for. And now one best of 3 later, they're known for really cool lane swaps. They're known for some flashy moves. On Fleek is solidifying himself as a really promising jungler. Just like Canyon, he comes in, steps up to the LCK with no LCK experience, and outdoes one of the players who in the LCK era since 2015 has defined the jungle in Peanut. That's really good to see from SANDBOX. They're making a name for themselves, and names, like we've said, have been a bit of folly this season. A lot of big-name players have been on the losing end, and Gen G step away 0-2.
Bit of an upset, you can say, when you look at it on paper. Obviously, you look at Gen G, their performance in Kespa Cup. You look at the players they have, Peanut, Ruler.
Yeah.
You know, pop out on the page, and you say, wow, this team could do really well. But week 1 is a total disaster for them. I know a lot of their fans are going to be thinking to themselves, what exactly is going wrong? But I have to say, specifically today, was not a great performance from them. They could do better. Today was just one that you got to just forget about.
And the awkward part is you can't even blame the coach. Because just like in any traditional sport, you kick the manager first. Like you fire the manager because the players are the more immovable part. Remember, they can't change rosters till the second round robin, which is a month and a half away. And we're already talking about roster changes in week 1. It was the players' execution that let them down the most. They had some very strong power in both drafts, but just couldn't wield it and was surprised by the on-the-fly adaptations. And it's, to me, the adaptations that SANDBOX can make of, hey, our top laner will go mid. Don't worry about it. It's the matchup. You might be a top laner, but you can work it out. Those adaptations were so much cleaner than some of our real veterans of the scene not being able to read the game state and making some big mistakes.
Yeah, and definitely some good things to take away from the side of SANDBOX. On Fleek, you know, rank 4 in solo queue, looking unbelievable. And just especially here in game number 2. And Dove, the big thing that strikes me about him, he's so consistent. Every game he plays just as well every single time. And game 2 was no exception.
The reason why I like this replay that he dies on is he didn't get the last second ult off that time, but we saw the team fight that was won by the fact that he was able to self-ult through Peanut's Sejuani ultimate. But more often than not, there were just little moments where SANDBOX were better. The apprehend there was god tier from the Darius. A long cooldown. You only get one of them in a team fight this early in the game, and he got the perfect one off. This was the second time from Dove where he does get the other one. Look at how much value is bought. 2.5 seconds, a Sejuani ult down. On Fleek comes in, Summit comes in. SANDBOX win this, and they never lost a team fight after this 1-1 from Dove's smart play.
That's also a split-second maneuver, too, because the Sejuani ultimate was mid-flight, and he was able to get it in between the stun of the Scion and the Sejuani ultimate hitting him. So he was spamming it Perhaps Peanut could have been a little bit faster on the trigger there. Not 100% sure, but he makes it happen, and On Fleek follows up.
Really good stuff from SANDBOX. Really deserving winners, and even though Gen G made mistakes, they were necessitated by SANDBOX's creative drafting and aggression. Aggression was the word I kept screaming at you, the viewers, everyone in summer season when it was so clear the meta was going towards aggression and Gen G and other teams were hanging back and scaling. I said, this is not the way you win in the meta. You win with aggression. Damwon, Griffin, and now SANDBOX are all living up to that, Valdez, and it's really heartening to see.
It's definitely good stuff from them. On Fleek had his Poggers moment too. Gets on there onto Roach even before he can execute his way out to safety. Gets the kill. They die on the backside, but it opens up the double inhibitor kill, as we were talking about as this was live. Good stuff there. They follow up and get these kills, and they end the game before we even realized they could.
And this was the one that, again, the VOD review might come up. It's a 3v4 as the fight goes on, but the item lead allows you
Summit
to make this. It's like you say, I think Ghost is the one that's even better to watch. At the start, he has to happy foot a bit. He's trying to work out where the fight will be happening, but look at how much insane damage Death Ray into Q is able to do. They're able to chase forward for further kills. Nicely done by Ghost. Shout out to him, a guy we would have had almost no expectations on. The ones we've had to eat our words on, Bono and Ghost, they come back and suddenly seem like they're going to flip from kind of a D tier to a B to A tier almost instantly. It's only week one, but very deserved victory and 28,500 gold. This time not in a losing effort from the victor.
Yeah, the damage is insane, and yeah, I mean, I said it in the beginning. I was one of the guys that was like, oh, not a huge fan of Ghost, you know, especially 2018. I think he struggled so much, and well, here he comes out for his first game, and he shuts my mouth, that's for sure. So excited to see more from him. More from SANDBOX. We were thinking, hey, what is SANDBOX going to bring to the table? Well, they brought a lot to the table tonight, Papa.
Humble pie is a great thing to eat as a caster because it makes you think critically about what could happen. You don't just stay in the past and say, well, they always won, so they'll keep winning. This year will be the underscore on that. Very well-deserved victory and very well-deserved MVP. It's a 107 stat line. It's not a sexy one, but it's definitely a well-deserved MVP.
And as you mentioned, this team fight, let's take a look at Ghost on the Victor. It's happy footing and making it work. I mean, you don't necessarily expect your AD carry to play this level of Victor, but man, he was so clean.
And do you remember how bad his Vladimir was?
Yeah.
He was an awful Vladimir player. He would never ult in team fights. He would try to play backline instead of frontline. Then he gets some time in the offseason. He gets a new scenario. No longer BBQ Olivers. I'm going to move on to SANDBOX Gaming. We're surprised to see him in the LCK again. And here we are saying his Victor was clean, his Game 1 performance was good. Ghost is leveled up, and he's starting to show some of the promise that I'm sure Mad Life saw when he was in the trainee house for CJ Entus now 3 years ago.
It's really exciting stuff. We just add one other team that looks really strong to the pot of amazing teams that we do have here in the LCK. So we're going to get that interview with Ghost going right away, guys. So I'll hand it over to G-Sun for the translation.
샌드박스 게이밍의 고스트 선수 모셨습니다. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요. 네, 와 정말 기분 좋으실 것 같은데.
Must be really happy, Ghost.
칼날을 제대로 갈고 나오셨어요.
What a revenge.
소감 한 말씀
How do you feel right now?
오늘 솔직히 연습이 좀 많이 잘 됐거든요. 그래서
We were doing really great during the practices, so I actually had really a lot of confidence. And I especially wanted to take down Genji so much, so 2-0 victory is really a meaningful one for me. So you locked in Kalista. Was that for strong laning phase? We were actually thinking about flag pick Lucian against Galio. And we prepared a lot of Joker picks, so we got a lot more left, so please keep an eye on us. And that was part of our plan. I guess we have to expect more from SANDBOX Gaming. And kind of SANDBOX was snowballing a lot even in the early stage of game. When did you guys gain the momentum to take down the Nexus? Well, maybe when Peanut tried to turret dive me in the mid lane.
하던 대로 하면 이기겠구나 이렇게 생각했어요.
I thought that maybe that can be the momentum for us to take down the Nexus in the end.
그리고 두 번째 경기 일단 뱀픽 구도가 굉장히 흥미로웠어요. 탑 다리우스,
Moving on to game
원딜,
two,
빅토르, 서포트
the draft
듀오.
was really
정말
interesting.
상상하지 못한 픽이었는데 어떤 전략이었나요?
What kind of
정말
strategy was
궁금해요.
that?
일단 저희는 템플 폭에 대한 자신이 있고
All of our players are confident with our champion pose.
때문에 그렇게 조합이 나왔던 것 같고
That was
저희
why we
탑
were trying
선수가
something new.
다리우스 무쇠거든요.
Especially
그래서 다리우스를
Summit
정말
really loves
좋아해서,
Darius.
네, 딱 각이 나와서
He says today is the day to show it, and I think it went as we planned.
원딜 빅토르 장점이 있을까요?
Then why did you play Victor as an AD carry?
일단 그냥 무난하게만
I've tried a
가는
lot of
방법을
experiments,
써서
and
AP 부족할 때나 그리고
so if
후반에
you're
좀
lacking in AP damage
중반만
or
가도
if you're going through some late or mid-late games,
안정적으로
it
쓸
has
수 있어요.
insane amount of damage. So I think Victor is
원딜
a
빅토르
really nice
앞으로
pick.
많이 쓸 것 같습니다. 그리고 두 번째 경기 이제 마무리를 할 때 집에 안 가고 거의 한 번 더 노리셨어요.
at the end of the game
그때
too,
이제는 끝내야겠다
You guys
이런
did not recall
마음이었는지.
but
아니요,
re-engage.
그때 저희가 불룡을 먹으러 가고 있었는데
We were actually trying to get the dragon,
하면서 적팀이 이제 따라올 것 같은 게
but we
계속
felt like
보였어요.
maybe
그래서
Tomkins
여기
might
숨어서
try
오히려
to catch us
죽여보자.
with his
그래서
ultimate. So we
그래서
just
이제 싸움을
rather
하고
try
이제
to
끝내도
play
되겠는데 하고 가서
try some bait
경기
plays,
끝냈던 것 같아요.
and we were able to
아주
close
멋진
out the game.
마무리였습니다. 오늘 조커 선수 아주 멋진 호흡 보여주셨는데
We
한참
saw
후잖아요.
really great
어떠세요?
synergy
두 분의
between
호흡은?
you and Joker.
나이 차이는 많이 나는데 저희 호흡은 지금
He's much
굉장히
older
좋다
than me, but
생각하거든요.
our synergy is really
저희가
great.
연습 때 바텀 진 적이 없는 것 같아요.
We never
그래서
lose in the streams.
앞으로도 이렇게 유지해서 꼭 좋은
I
모습
just hope that we
보여드리도록
can just continue
노력하겠습니다.
on this great
오늘
performance and
정말 멋진
teamwork.
모습이었습니다. 아까 메라님이 말씀하시길
And
지금이
Medlight told us that you
전성기다라는
told him
말씀하셨다고
this is
들었어요.
your golden age of your career. Is that true?
일단 팀원들이 믿어주고 또
All of
저도
my
믿고
teammates are
서로
trusting
믿으면서
me,
이제
and I'm trusting
열심히
them,
하니까 계속
and we're working so
좋은
hard.
결과 만들 수 있을 것
So
같아서
I think we can
지금
continue to come back with better performance and pick up better results.
네, 앞으로도 멋진 호흡
This might be the
보여주시길
best team for me.
기다리겠습니다. 마지막으로 룰러
So
박지원
lastly,
선수 꼭 꺾고 싶다고 하셨잖아요.
You said your goal was to take
오늘
down
마지막으로
Ruler, and you
소감과
made your
각오 한마디
dream come
부탁드립니다.
true. How do you feel right now?
룰러 선수 처음으로 이겨봤는데 기분 좋고
This is my first time to
다음
pick up a
경기가
victory
데프트
against him.
선수인데 꼭 데프트 선수가
My next
이겼고
opponent will be Deft.
세차원의
I'm
자리로
gonna make sure to
가도록
take him
하겠습니다.
down and become the
네,
best
고스트
AD carry in the
선수가
world.
어디까지 성장할 수 있을지 기다려 보도록 하겠습니다.
So
자,
this will be the end of the
샌드박스
interview
게이밍의
with
고스트
Ghost
선수
from
감사하고요.
SANDBOX Gaming,
저희는
and I'm gonna
다음
pass it back to
경기로
our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji-san, for that translation, as always. And, well, what a game. That's a big upset. We weren't expecting that one. SANDBOX, they go up against Kingzone next time around. That's even looking good for SANDBOX. And Gen G, they go up against Afrika next Thursday. So, pretty rough matchup, I'd say. Afrika looking pretty good. Hearing some good things about them. Could be some more, painful games here for Gen G as the LCK rolls along.
But we kind of have to bite our tongues when we talk about Afrika because they are the only team that has not debuted yet. In just over an hour, we will have Afrika versus SKT, and maybe those Afrika whispers are true, and they are true to be a contender. But for now, what can we assume when Gen G, KT Rolster, and Kingzone are a combined 1-game win, 8-game losses so far in LCK Spring 2019? It was always going to be a change in the guard. All the off-season changes, the world's misfires. Korea needed some changes. We didn't know they'd be like this.
All these newer teams with the newer rosters looking really good. But, guys, we are going to go to that break. We will come back in about an hour for the second match of Afrika versus SKT.